Welcome back to the Chasing Happiness podcast, an honest podcast about finding happiness, what it really means, and the process of getting there. My name is Crystal, and today I'm going to have an amazing conversation with Amla. Now, for everyone who is listening, we actually got introduced through Mina, who was on the podcast probably about a month or so ago. And we're going to talk about that as well, because I want to know the whole story behind how you guys got connected. But Amla, for people who don't know you, maybe have never heard of you, I know you're an author, but you want to give yourself a bit of an introduction so that people who are listening know who you are and what you do.
Sure. So my name is Amla Mehta, and I'm from the United States. I'm in Connecticut myself. And basically, I became a speaker, an author, and a teacher based on my journey of vision loss, which means this. I have partial vision. It's the best way to describe it. Because if I say I'm legally blind, they're like, well, you could still see. I get that all the time, right? So if I say partial vision, I think people can really relate to that. Like, oh, okay, she doesn't see everything. She has partial vision. So bottom line, what happened was it's a genetic disorder. It was, so I was born with it. It's called Gyrate Atrophy, Gyrate Atrophy. It's on my website, Amla Speaks, AMLA, SPEAKS.com. So only apparently with this eye condition, only 200 people have this in the world.
Wow.
And I consider myself the lucky one, only, of course, through time and just the journey of this. Have I embraced this with grace and ease? It's not easy, but anything is possible. And I believe that because you could go through any challenge in your life. It's all how you cope with what you've got, not what's not.
Right.
Yeah.
So that begs the question. You have written a few books. You've obviously done that through the process of losing your vision. So how difficult was it, one, for you to tell that story, but two, just to lots of people think about writing a book. Not many people actually do.
Yeah. That's a really good question. So because of my journey, so the first book is called Eye with the View, like the body part, EYE with a view. And that came out right before the pandemic, October of 19. So I'm getting to the point is that there are 12 stories. There are three parts to the book. There are 12 stories based on universal themes like facing loss or being your authentic self or speaking your truth. And then the third part of it is I offer healing tips and tools based on that theme, like speaking your truth or taking self-care, self-love, those types of topics. So, the reason why I wrote it that way is because most people who are reading the book probably are not going blind, right? You have to make it relatable, right? So those are universal themes that we all go through. Some just have it more extreme than other people do, like myself. Right. So my journey came across of trying to write this book was really difficult due to those, I call them from pain to purpose, 12 true stories. They were very difficult pieces of my life, but I needed to write about them, not only to share, but just to be like, look, anything you can go through, whatever challenge it might be, you got to believe in yourself. And you got to get up again. And it might not take a day, might not take 10 days or 10 years even, but you will get up again. So my journey of writing, actually, when I found out, I was 16 years old when I found out about gyrate atrophy, my eye condition, and it in air quotes, it's old, right? Because it's a genetic disorder that I have. So I was born with it, yet I was only diagnosed at age 16. So getting to the point of that is that I just started writing. I was just mad at the divine, just blaring my boom box at the time, and just like yelling and, just yelling in the sense of my writing. And so for years, bottom line, moving forward with that is my writing was like, I call it emotional mashed potatoes. It was just all emotional gunk and junk. I would try to write it. I put it down. I'd write it, put it down. Or something would happen, like a huge wave of the ripple effects of blindness. An example, when I was 25, I was in corporate America, and I woke up seeing blobs. And that meant, according to my doctor, it was cataracts. And that's like a symptom of a sneeze to a cold. I say that in the book as well. It's a part of the blindness, but I didn't know that. No one told me this. The doctors didn't either. So here I am at 25 thinking, oh my God, the blindness has hit me now.
Right.
The prognosis of this blindness is between age 45 and 60. So I'm like, oh my God, I have this is happening now. Oh my gosh, what am I going to do? So that was a really pivotal moment of my life, right? So again, I was just trying to write the book, and it just was not happening. And it really is divine timing. When you're meant to write it, you will, and when you're ready to reveal it and share it with the world. Is it a perfect book? No. And I talk about that. It's authentic. And I wrote it like one baking homemade chocolate chip cookies. It's not perfect, but it's made with love. And that's me.
I love that. I love that analogy, first of all, because you can never mess up a chocolate chip cookie, really. It doesn't matter. They're always good in some way.
Exactly.
I love that.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I do wonder, because that's a lot as a teenager, especially, to be told and to have to cope with, and then to have the time throughout your adulthood as you're growing. We all know, and anyone listening to this podcast knows, we all struggle through adolescence, early adulthood, trying to figure out life and all of those things. Having something additionally sort of weighing you down must have been quite the experience to try and figure out how to navigate what you did have while it was also changing.
You hit it on the head. Honest to God, it still is really difficult. I'm in my late 40s. Only 3 years ago, currently I see through fog. So it's kind of like if you're looking at a river in the morning, misty steam, the mist, that hovers over the river. Okay. That's how I see everywhere. And I have tunnel vision, which is a part of the blindness. It's slowly closing in, kind of like a kaleidoscope type of visual field. Going from, I had my license to not having my license, to, am I going to finish college? I finished college. Then I had the cataract surgery. And then I had a good 10 years of depression. So, I've gotten feedback. It's been 2.5 years since my first book. And I welcome anybody, who would like to share what they thought of the book or whatever. But what I get a lot of the time is that, wow, you've been through a lot. And it's just the thing is with me, I'm authentic. That's actually my message to the world, is that if I could be my authentic self and love myself unconditionally, there are no excuses, right?
Yes.
So, being your authentic self, it's the good, the bad, and the ugly parts of you. If you meet your shadow parts, the shinier you are spiritually. Right? If I didn't meet them, that's a choice. Everybody has a choice.
Right.
But I chose to meet those shadow parts of me. I had, in a way, no choice of okay, this is what's internally going on with me. An example, somebody just, rolled their eyes because I bumped into them at the grocery store. That's happened, right? And how do I take that? It's their projection, right? Their projection upon me.
Right.
It's that whole Buddha thing. His saying is, it's how you respond to something, not how you react to something. Right. So the thing is that it's a practice. It's just like life. You're going to sometimes make it and sometimes you don't, and sometimes I'm just so frustrated. Are you serious? I'm the one that doesn't see. Right. But I can't, if I constantly project that's not going to help me.
Right.
Right. So that's the teaching right there in and of itself. There are no books for me to read. I don't have a manual for blindness. Life is my teacher. Gyrate Atrophy is my teacher.
Right. Yeah. That's huge. And I think for everyone listening, it's such an important lesson, because a lot of times, and I will say this personally for myself, as well as for, clients that I deal with, a lot of times we get stuck so much in our own heads and our own struggles. And when something like that, like your grocery store example, when something like that comes up, it's not very often, unless you are a really self-aware person, it's not very often where you take a step back and you go, okay, wait a minute. And I think we need more of that in the world because we don't know what other people are going through. There is no way to know what a stranger is dealing with. And if we can't show up with love and kindness and forgiveness towards each other, then where are we going to be?
Exactly.
Oh,
That's the irony, is because I do find myself finding forgiveness. That's actually a chapter in my book. Like, that was huge. I need it. Like, if I want to be happy, which is the theme of this whole podcast, like, I need to be happy from within. And that means not taking on other people's, again, that the key word is projection. That's their stuff. It's not mine. Right.
Yeah.
But I'm a very transparent, very honest person, is that what happens is that people don't like my shininess. I could feel it. It's the empathic part of me, because I've worked on myself. This doesn't happen you don't just say, oh, gee, I'm going to be authentic for the day or for the minute or for a week. You're authentic. It's like your shadow. It follows you everywhere. That's real authenticity, right? That's who I am. That's what I work on every day. As Wayne Dyer says, be a better version than you used to be of yourself.
Yes.
That could be 2 minutes ago.
Exactly. Yes. 100%. Yes. Because if we're not trying to be a better version of who we were the day before, then what is the point?
Exactly. It's just like riding a bike, like, you're going to fall, but that's what life is. You get back up again. And the key point is it's in one of my collaborative books, Success in Any Season. I actually fell in 2020, and it really, no pun intended, it really hit me hard. I was really in the dumpster land. And my point, one of my lines, I believe in my piece, was that, it may take a day, it may take 10 minutes, it may take 10 years, 20 years to get back up again. But you will, if you have the drive and the will and the belief that you can do this, you will get back up again.
That's huge. And the fact that there is no timeline, I think so often, especially when we're talking about something like grief, so often people are told, oh, well, it's been this much time, you should be fine by now. But the truth is, things, especially really deep and meaningful things, they take time to process. And you're right. Absolutely. It could be 10 years. It could be 20 years. It could be 10 minutes. It just depends. And maybe it's something that you deal with, that you think you've dealt with, and then something comes up in life and you're like, oh my God, I'm right back where I was.
Then you fall again. And that's the fear. Like, that's the, like, oh no, I've done this before. It's like that saying of, how many times are you going to touch a hot stove to know it's hot? Right.
Right.
But each burn is different. That's actually one of my lines in Amla Speaks 365, my second book. Each burn is different.
Yes.
You can't compare it with the last. There's something to learn from that burn.
100%. 100%. And the fact that we as people tend to think it's a setback, I think is where we fall into that sort of cycle of not necessarily depression, but certainly a depressive state, because it's not a cycle, because you're not in the same place. You've learned things from the last time that you can now utilize this time that you didn't have before.
Absolutely. You have more tools in your tool belt. Is what I hear you saying. It's so true. It's like the more falls, it's kind of like the saying of, I don't think I'm intellectually smart, in air quotes. I'm more from wounds to wisdom type of smart, if you would.
I love it.
Like, I get things because I've been there. I've done that. There's no other way to describe it. I mean, and there's no one size fits all to blind people, to a worker at, corporate America. We're all different roles. We're all the different imprints, if you would, and embracing that is so important.
It is so important. And it's very hard. I know from my own personal journey, as you were talking earlier about sort of sitting down with the shadow and figuring out all the different parts of yourself. It's hard work, and you have to be dedicated enough and honest enough with yourself to be willing to dig deep.
And you know what? I'm just going to be again honest, because the key phrases, what I hear from the feedback from my book is, it's very honest, it's very authentic, and it's very heartfelt. Those three words always come up. But the funny thing is that when you're honest, you're not fluffing it all up. You're just saying it. I'm very much like, I say it like it is, like as a matter of fact type of person. And I can't worry how the reader's going to take it. A lot of people don't understand because they haven't been through it. And that's the thing. And that's the thing. And I hate to say it, but it's ego of like, well, haven't I done this before? What spirituality, you're not getting paid for this.
Right.
That's the thing too. It's like, oh, this is too hard. I'm not getting any rewards. What's the point of this? Right?
Yeah.
Right? Isn't that the truth?
100%.
You know, but the funny thing is that it's kind of like one of my lines. I don't forgot which book, but you know, like you climb your own mountain. Oh, this is from Amla Speaks 365. It's a quote book, and one of my lines was, whether it's a hill, a medium-sized hill, or Mount Everest, it's your mountain to climb. Go climb it. There's no judgment. Do it.
I love that.
And what of you it's going to be? Are we going to just like, oh, if it's a 5-year-old climbing on a hill, that's a big deal. Why not when we're adults? What's wrong with climbing hills?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, why do we always have to, oh, well, I could do this and I could do that. Good for you. I'm glad you can. But we're all here to learn and grow and evolve. And it doesn't matter which pool you're in, whether you're in the kiddie pool or the deep end. You're in the pool.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, because I think everybody who's listening is going to wonder if they have never attempted this journey. And we talk about spirituality quite often here on this podcast, but lots of people are still afraid to sort of dip their toes in. So for people who have never done the work, where would you suggest they start?
You know, I always say, you know, one of my messages, there are 2 messages. I actually have t-shirts on my website too, but every piece of writings, my sign-off signature is shine love, shine light, shine you.
Aww.
And that stems from the heart. It's all go back to your heart. It's such a simple way to connect with you because, of course, if the heart's not beating, you're not alive.
Right.
So it's a great way to start from that with the heart. And that means counting to 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, inhale, hold, and then exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And, you know, like keep on going with that. You just find a simple rhythm. I'm telling you, the mind, spirituality has nothing to do with the mind. It has all to do with the heart. And that's a great way to connect with you, and not only with you, to the universe as well.
Yes.
You know, and yeah, and think of it like you're the conduit, like the direct connection, the electrical connection from source to you, and it goes straight through the heart.
I love that. I love that. For everybody listening, rewind, go back. That is fantastic. I think, you know, especially given the last couple of years that we've all lived through with COVID and everything that's going on in the world, I think people a lot of times tend to get stuck in their own heads about all the things that, you know, we have to solve and deal with and figure out. And we often don't just stop to take that breath. And we don't just stop to say, in this moment, what can I do? What is my heart telling me to do? What's the baby step that I can take that will move me forward versus trying to fix the whole world at once?
Absolutely. And the present moment is just that. It's a gift. It's a present. And like this gyrate atrophy is a perfect way for me to be like, I'm still losing my vision. I'm not completely blind. It's kind of like, I think this is in one of my books. I forgot, but it doesn't even matter. The point is that do we wake up and say, I'm closer to death? Yeah, well, yeah, we are. I mean, the time is ticking, right? But there's a life to live. I'm not going to wake up saying, well, did you know I'm going blind? And like, that's it. You know, I have a life to live. Right? You have things that you want to accomplish, your purpose. I hope that you're following your path and your passion and your purpose in life. You know, if it wasn't for this gyrate atrophy, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. I know that this was all the divine's way of me to see inside out. And actually, it's one of my lines that I got from a meditation way back when, you know, when I go blind, I would have seen it all.
Wow.
And the other thing that goes along with it is that, honest to God, Crystal, if with the poorest vision right now, I've never felt so clear in my life. It's so true.
That's huge. Most people don't feel clear ever. So like, that's huge. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. It's, how do I know this? A lot of people would probably ask, how do you know this? You just know, because your heart, let's go back to there. Your heart is so full. Even as I'm speaking to you, I feel my heart just totally expanding. It's tingling. This conversation is making my soul in bliss land. It really is.
Mine as well. And I'm absolutely loving this, because I think you're right. I think without even realizing it until you just said it, that's sort of how I'm guiding my life at this point, right? It's those things that make my heart grow, that make my heart swell, that I lean into.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, it's something we should all be doing, because there is just no better feeling in the world. And I think at some point in our lives, somehow we get all messed up about what's important and we stop following that.
Yep.
So getting back to it is just so important, so that we can get through the struggles.
Like the saying goes, stay in your own lane. I think that confuses us too. Everybody, what is she doing? What's he doing? Right. Don't worry about what everybody else is doing. Don't you have enough on your own plate? Right? Don't you have you to worry about? It's not being selfish. A lot of people are, oh, well, that's selfish. No, it's not. It's being self-full. You're taking self-care.
Right.
And you really, when you can take self-care, then you can take care of others.
Yes. And
it just overflows like a bubbling pot of hot water. Just overflows with love and love and love and more love, and the irony of all of this is, and I want to touch base with this, is that I think this will help your listeners as well, is that, with the heart, people get scared because, oh, well, those are where you're vulnerable and the heart could get hurt really easily. I say there, everybody says, there's that saying, don't take things personally. I say, take things personally. Honestly, where I have taken things personally, it's so much easier for me, just like the child, to get through it, to walk through the fire of, oh, I have an owie, in air quotes, like a 5-year-old would say. Let's take care of this.
Right.
Let's go to that inner child. Give that inner child that was abandoned, that didn't feel the love. Let's give her some love. Let's give her that 5-year-old Amla, in my case. Give her that love that she never had, where she felt neglected, that she felt ignored, that she felt like a pebble on the side of the road. Let's give her that love.
Right.
There's that way of turning it around. And I'm telling you, if you look at it that angle, that perspective, it changes the whole way of connecting with your heart and your soul.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And listening to you, I can tell people are going to feel inspired by you. I already feel inspired by you. So my question to you is, what actually inspires you in this moment?
That's a really good question. I'm going to go back to one of my lines because it just popped up. One of my lines is, when you feel down, or inspiration comes from within, right? It can't come outside of you. You're inspired because something in you is being lifted. It's being struck by a chord. Something in you, like, I didn't do anything. You're doing it for you, right? So the point for me is, inspiration comes from within. That said, every time I feel like, what is happening? Where's my inspiration? I don't look lateral. I look up. Whatever way you want to describe that, I look at the divine source, creator, supreme. I always look up, because the source and creator has my back always. No matter how many times I've fallen, I always know that source, creator, supreme is always there. So and the funny thing is, the irony, right? I'm not seeing. So there's nothing to look at anyway. Right? It's funny. It's no pun intended, but I mean, I still have vision. I can still see people and eyes and the nose and the whole, the features of the face, of course. And I still see colors and all that. But it's fascinating when the more falls that I've been through, the more inspiration, to answer your question, I get from my own path is from the divine. There's no other way to describe it.
I love that. I love that because I very much live a life that is centered around the thought process of everything that happens to you is for the best possible reason, even if you don't understand it in the moment, because the universe has your back.
Yep.
And so, it's that same sort of thought process. Like we may not understand it because we're logical and we're humans and we try to make things more complicated than they have to be.
Yes.
But ultimately, what is happening is meant to happen. And you just have to have faith in whatever that is, as you said, however you want to label the universe, God, whatever it is.
Exactly.
And move forward. Even when you fall down, keep getting back up.
Yeah. And I really think that it also, the other way is that when you're falling, I think the ego's just like, I haven't fallen. Well, the first step is saying that you've fallen.
Right.
Right. So just those little baby steps, the more that you could say, hey, this has happened. I don't like it. Even say that. What's wrong with saying that? As long as you're not lashing out at somebody or hurting yourself, it's okay. And so, that's how you get through these little baby steps of saying, hey, this has happened. Would you say that to your 5-year-old child? Like getting angry every time they've fallen or they didn't tie their shoes properly or they're trying to learn how to tie their shoes. And, why are you not learning? Like, it's again, we learn these, unlearn what you've learned, basically.
Yes.
It's so true, right? The narrative can really put a dent on us human beings.
Absolutely. And that is so important. It's interesting that you say that because just a few days ago, I shared something on social media and it was a quote that was like, unlearn everything you learned from hurt and wounded people, because mostly what we learned, it was right. Like,
yeah.
Oh my God, yes.
That's definitely serendipitous right there.
I absolutely love this conversation. Amla, for everyone who is listening, of course, I'm going to post notes in the show notes where they can find you. But if they want to follow your journey, if they want to get in touch with you, if they want to buy a book, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Sure. Everyth's on there. That's why I'm going to just mention the website. It's Amla Speaks, AMLA Speaks, SPEAKS.com. And everything's on there. My social media pages. There's a little taste of me in action, and I have videos and all sorts of things on there. So check that out. And it really is a pleasure having this conversation with you. I just feel, again, I feel so much joy and so much love.
Oh, Amla, right back at you. I absolutely adore you. And I could probably talk to you all day. So I will definitely have you back on the podcast again in the future.
Oh, that would be great. Yeah.
I do want to ask you one question before I let you go. And it's a question I ask for everyone who comes on the podcast. What does happiness mean to you?
I think happiness means it's an inside job and it's love for you unconditionally. If you could love yourself, all parts of you with love, grace, and ease, that's joy. That's the pure definition of joy and happiness. Oh. So with that, I'd like to say, shine love, shine light, shine you. Thank you, everyone.
Oh, Amla, that's beautiful. And that's a perfect place for us to end. So thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you, Amla, for joining me. I cannot tell you how much I love that I get to have these conversations on this podcast. It's been 6 years, and like every day my life is a little bit better and brighter because I get to meet people like Amla and have these conversations and share them with the world. So thank you for listening. Of course, I will post in the show notes all of the links so that you can get in touch and follow. And I appreciate you guys coming back to listen week after week. Have a great week. We will chat with you next week. Bye for now.